The crisis on Infinite Earths is behind us. Let's talk about it. Hi guys, welcome to Multiverse. So today we are going to talk about the conclusion of Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm going to try to just explain what I thought more or less about the crossover at first without any spoilers, and then I'll tell you when I'll start to spoil things a bit. Overall, it was a fun crossover. There were a few cringe moments. There were a few moments that were, let's say, a bit painful to look at. But overall, the crossover was a fun bit. It's always fun to see all those different characters that normally do not interact together finally interact with each other. So those are all fun bits that we don't normally get to see. That thanks to those crossovers, thanks to getting all those characters together, we can get some nice bit that normally we would get. And also the Easter eggs. They had a billion Easter eggs. We had, in a roundabout ways, we had the Batman that made a few appearances, and we had a handful of Superman. The one thing I really didn't like about the crossover was Lex Luthor. I hate their version of Lex Luthor, but it kind of fits within the context of Supergirl. Basically, they see Lex Luthor as a clown, and that's what they've cast. They've cast a, let's say, a beta male that's very clownish. I guess that shows how much they don't really respect the character. So they see him as sort of a clown, and that's what they've cast to play him. It's a bit sad, but what can you do? There's also the character of Ryan Choi. I wasn't sure exactly why they cast the character. I was almost expecting them to are they going to introduce him as the new Adam? Is Ray Palmer going to pass the torch to Ryan Choi? Although maybe it is something they're setting up for future episodes. You never know. But I just didn't understand what Ryan Choi did there. He was pointless. He could have been easily replaced by Ray Palmer. Could have done everything that Ryan Choi did, and even better, because at some point when they're fighting the shadow demons, you see Ryan Choi literally punching the shadow demons with his bare hands. He has no powers. He's just a guy, and somehow he was able to punch them. At the very least, White Canary had some weapons that she was using. Batwoman had some weapons that she was using. Even our weapons had been enhanced by Ray Palmer in the previous episode in the crossover. So even though those were normal humans fighting shadow demons, at least they had some sort of weapon to make some sort of difference. But Ryan Choi was just a guy, and basically they painted themselves in the corner. They wanted to have Ryan Choi, but they didn't really know how to use him. In the case of, it would have made more sense to have Ray Palmer being instead of Ryan Choi, because at least Ray Palmer had the Atom suit. He could have used the Atom suit to fight the Shadow Demons, as opposed to Ryan Choi was just punching them, just being a normal guy. So there were a few decisions like that were a bit fishy. But in order to continue, I'm gonna have to start spoiling. But so overall, it was a fun event. It was fun to see the interaction between the characters, and it was fun to see like a billion Easter eggs. Throughout those episodes. So now time for spoilers. You have been warned. So now that we can spoil, I mentioned how Brandon Routh probably should have been the character being used instead of Rand Chow. And the same with the Spectre. They desperately really wanted to have Oliver Queen being the guy who saves the universe. They wanted to give him a grand finale because it's the end of the Arrow TV show. From what I understand, there's 2 episodes left of Arrow. So they're ending the Arrow series, and they wanted to give a big finale to Oliver Queen, because there's no reason why Jim Corrigan could have been the Spectre. Jim Corrigan could have remained the Spectre, and the story would have been pretty much the same. But they had to have Oliver Queen be the guy who saves the universe, so they decided to make Oliver Queen the Spectre. So basically, we had the Arrow with a pretty huge green cape on his back. Actually, it was more than a cape. I think it was almost like a raincoat or something. But basically, it could have been the Spectre, Jim Corrigan, who did everything that Oliver Queen did, and the story would not have been that much different, other than Green Arrow would not have died. So they kind of forced it a bit. That's probably one of the few issues I have for the past couple of seasons. Not just for Arrow or Supergirl, for all those TV shows. Sometimes they paint themselves in a corner, and they force an outcome that they're trying to have. Like in this case, they wanted to have Oliver Queen being the Spectre, so they kind of forced the story to make him the Spectre, even though it didn't really exactly work. I guess one of the reasons to use Oliver as the Spectre was to have the whole bit where they have to go through his various memories. Basically, they go through the Speed Force, and somehow in the Speed Force they go through various memories that Oliver had. Like the first place where he met Barry Allen, we saw that bit. There's a place where he was talking with Ray Palmer, and somehow Batwoman saw that, and she had to see that so that she could understand that not trusting people is not a good thing. She has to learn to trust people or trust her friends. And but one of the really fun bits we got through the Speed Force, although I'm not sure how that would be a memory for Oliver Queen, is when Barry Allen meets Barry Allen. Basically, we saw Ezra Miller, the Flash from the Justice League movies, who met Grant Gustin, the Flash of the TV show, and it was a bit weird. It was a fun bit, but also it also illustrated how you can see that scene how streamlined the costume of the Flash TV show, which is pretty darn close to the comic at this point. How streamlined the costume of the Flash TV show is compared to the bulky costume of the movie version, and you can see one of the flaws of the yeah, I guess the design flaws that we've been seeing at least for 20 years is how, actually more than that, how designers usually have a tendency to over design designs. Like you can see exactly the Flash with Ezra Miller being way too over designed versus the sleek streamlined version that the TV show version of the character is wearing. And at this point, the costume of the Flash in the TV show is pretty much spot on. I hope they're going to keep that costume from now on, but you never know. Odds are by next season they'll probably try to redesign it again. It seems to be a pattern, and it seems to be a pattern with TV shows, but also with movies. With each new season or each new movie, they have to redesign everything for some reason. Sometimes the designs, I can understand if they make a major redesign, but sometimes the designs are so subtle. One of the best, well, actually two of the best examples I can think of is the first one would be the Batman by Tim Burton. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys, when you saw Batman Returns, you never realized that Batman had a new costume. Basically, they redesigned the Batman costume, but in such a subtle way that most people don't even notice it. And the same with Spider-Man would be another example. With every Spider-Man movie, they feel like they have to redesign the freaking costume. But I guarantee you that if you ask a lot of people if Spider-Man is wearing the same costume in Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2, 99.9% of people would say that no, Spider-Man has the same costume. No one would realize or notice that he actually has a different costume in Spider-Man 2. But the difference are so subtle that no one notices. It's something that happens all the time. They constantly feel like they have to reinvent the wheel somehow. I can understand, and sometimes there might be some practical reason. Like I believe, like last year when they gave a new costume to the Flash, it was because the previous costume he had was giving him headaches or something like that. So they tried to make the headpiece a bit bigger so that wouldn't happen. And then we ended up with a Flash that looked like a Gazoo from the Flintstones. But this year they pretty much they fixed the issue, and they pretty much streamlined the costume, and they did a much better job than they did last year. But somehow every year they seems to have the tendency to try to reinvent the wheel. They've been doing that with Arrow also. Arrow from season to season always keep on getting a new costume somehow. And as they went through Oliver's memories, basically they were able to use flashbacks from previous seasons. So I guess they were able to save a bit of cost doing that, reusing a few scenes. Although they also made not a new version of those scenes, but they added to those scenes. For example, they would have a scene, let's say, lifted straight from Arrow, but then you would have Barry would make an appearance in that scene. So it was sort of a mishmash of reusing some older scene and adding to them, unless they redid the scenes completely, which is quite possible, I suppose. It was a lot of talking scenes, so it was probably it probably was easier for them to just redo the scene. Although in some cases you have a scene where you have Superman fighting the evil Superman from the Elseworld crossover, and so I'm pretty sure that they reused at least some of those scenes that had some visual effects, and they added a bit to that afterwards. But it was fun to see again Superman fighting the evil Superman with the black costume. But again, as I mentioned, I hated Lex Luthor. They pretty much turned him into a clown. And I understand that they probably have no respect for the character, or no respect for who the character is supposed to represent. But sadly, turning him into a clown doesn't make him very much of a threat in terms of being the evil villain that he's supposed to be. And we didn't get that many appearances from our friend Ray Palmer, but we saw him a few times, and even used the Atom suit, which was always fun. Sadly, it's something that they in Legends of Tomorrow. One of the issues I had is that as time went by, they would try to change the characters. Like we had the Atom, who had his Atom suit pretty much since Legends of Tomorrow started. Actually, before that in Arrows, in the Arrow TV show. But at some point, we would go at many episodes without Ray Palmer using the Atom suit. I understand that using the Atom suit probably requires some sort of visual effects, especially when he uses his powers. And there's this one season where instead of the Atom using his suit, they gave him like some sort of totem. The whole theme was that they had those 6 or 7 totem, I forget, that they wanted to use, and each character ended up getting a totem instead of using their usual powers. So instead of having the Atom use his Atom suit, he was using that totem, which used just some generic sort of energy, as opposed to the specific powers of his Atom suit. So the Arrow episode was pretty much them going throughout the various memories that Oliver Queen had through the Speed Force somehow. And at the end, we have Oliver who fights the Anti-Monitor. And at first, the rest of the heroes fight the evil Shadow Demons until they realize that what they have to use, they often try to find solutions that involve not punching. Like they don't want to resolve issues with punching. They're trying to find ways to solve issues with their feelings or something like that. And in this case, it was like the power of positive thinking or something, where they just have to think positively to try to, I don't know, help Oliver defeat the evil Anti-Monitor. It was a goofy ending, but sadly it's to be expected at this point in these TV shows. They're trying very hard to find solutions or outcomes that can be resolved with their feelings, and I guess this was their solution. Each of the paragon that represented hope and courage and truth and all that, they had to give the positive thoughts to help Oliver, and then Oliver was able to defeat the evil Anti-Monitor. Sadly, once again, we witnessed the death of Oliver Queen. It's a bit much though. We saw him die twice in this crossover, and you have to wonder, is he truly dead? Are we going to see him in the last 2 episodes of Arrow? Already also we have a bit of a hint that he's probably not exactly dead, because in the last season of Arrow, towards the end of the season, you have the Monitor who opens a portal so that Felicity can go and join Oliver somewhere, we don't know where. Maybe in the Speed Force, maybe at the dawn of time. I guess we'll have to wait and see for the last 2 episodes of Arrow to find out. So they tried to make this whole emotional bit about Oliver Queen sacrificing himself to save the universe, or the multiverse in this case. But after seeing him die already just a few episodes ago, it's kind of hard not to believe that he's probably not really dead, at least not yet. And then we had a fun bit, pretty much reminiscent to the original Crisis on Infinite Earth comic, when we find out that the various Earths, the Earth of the Black Lightning, the Earth of Supergirl, and the Earth of the Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and the Arrow, are all merged together into a single Earth. At first, I thought that maybe that merged all the Earths together, but we find out towards the end of the episode that there is still a multiverse. But they did merge most of the Earths that they had. You have to wonder to begin with why they had Supergirl on a different Earth. I know that at the time she was her TV show was on a different network, and only with the second season was it moved back into the CW. But it still could have been the same Earth, even though it was on 2 different networks. Because they even managed to make a Flash Supergirl crossover during that first season when Supergirl was on a different network. So they easily still could have made it the same Earth, but even though the show was on a different network. And it's even worse with Black Lightning. You have to wonder what they were thinking to have Black Lightning be on a different Earth. Black Lightning could have been easily on the same Earth as everyone else right from the start, but somehow I guess they didn't have confidence in that TV show. It's all I can really think of at this point. They didn't really have enough confidence on that show to incorporate it with the rest of the Arrowverse. I guess they assumed that let's try Black Lightning on his own. If he is successful, then we'll try to have him join the rest of the Arrowverse. If not, we'll just forget about it. So it sadly shows a lack of confidence in that it had in that show from the get go. But now they've managed to correct their mistakes. It's a bit strange to see history repeat itself a bit. The Crisis on Infinite Earths in the comics originally was designed to streamline the DC universe, and so it brought a whole bunch of different characters together and a whole bunch of Earths together into a more cohesive Earth, and it's pretty much what they've repeated here. They made what was a bit of a mess, having Supergirl on her own Earth, Black Lightning on his own Earth, and they've put them all together in the same Earth. Although towards the end of the episode, we realize that there is still a multiverse. There's still the Earth with the Doom Patrol. There's still the Earth with the Teen Titans. So there's still different Earths with the other TV shows. I think there's an Earth also for Swamp Thing. So there's still different Earths for the various TV shows. But again, you have to wonder why. Why not just put them all on the same Earth once more? So you see the characters that try to come to grip with the fact that now they all live on the same Earth, and also they have to come to grip. I guess that's going to be a major plot point in Supergirl from now on, or at least for a while, where Lex Luthor seems to be seen as a good guy. He's not an evil villain, at least not to the eye of most people. I guess they'll explain in Supergirl what trickery Lex did to change his fate. Maybe he rewrote the Book of Destiny a bit more than we knew. We're gonna have to wait and see for that. And there is a fun bit when Supergirl and Flash realize that they're now on the same Earth. There's a Marv Wolfman, the creator of the writer of Crisis on Infinite Earth. He was also the writer on Teen Titans and a whole bunch of stuff that I won't mention because it'll be too long. But it was a fun bit to see Marv Wolfman come and see them and get their autograph. And that's when they realize, Supergirl and Flash realize that holy crap, we're on the same Earth now. And again, I mentioned there's a whole bunch of Easter egg. The bit with Marv Wolfman was, if you didn't know who Marv Wolfman is, or if you didn't know what he looks like, which is quite possible, you would miss that. But if you're an old comic book reader like me, I got quite a kick seeing Marv Wolfman make an appearance. But there's always a few questionable bits in those TV shows. Sometimes the writers will write themselves in a corner and decide, screw it, let's do it anyway. Like at some point, they had this plan where there was this big Bebo who was terrorizing the city, and they tie some rope around his legs and they try to get him to fall down. And they have Flash, Supergirl, Atom, and Heatwave pulled on a rope. Flash has no super strength. Heatwave has no super strength. Supergirl by herself is stronger than all of them together. Although I guess the Atom could have helped with the thanks to the Atom suit. The Atom suit probably makes him stronger. So Supergirl and Atom, Flash and Heatwave were redundant. It should have been just Supergirl and Atom, but they wanted everyone to participate, of course. So, but sadly, sometimes they'll do a bit silly stuff. They'll write themselves into a corner and they'll do silly stuff like that. I guess this was the Legends of Tomorrow episode, so they usually try to be a bit more comedic. I guess they saw that as a funny, seeing Flash and Heatwave try to contribute when Supergirl by herself could do all the job. But also the way they had Sargon the Sorcerer overact, that's textbook Legends of Tomorrow. They're trying very hard to be a comedy show as opposed to a superhero show. I know that it can be both, and in the case of Legends of Tomorrow, they went way far left field into comedy. But again, they did give us some nice few character bits, like when Wild Dog is giving champagne to everyone, and then it gets to Worry, and Worry says, "Oh, what is that?" And he says, "Alcohol," and then he gives him some alcohol, and it was a little bit of it wasn't that big of an exchange, but it was a nice bit between two characters that we never see interact together, and the interaction was spot on between the two of them. You have to wonder sometimes if the writer even watched their shows or the shows that the other shows in the Arrowverse that they're not producing or they're not working on, because they have this whole bit with with White Canary, with Sarah Lance when she's talking with Barry about this tree that she used to climb with her sister. But now her sister is dead. Oliver is dead, so our father is dead. So she acts as if no one remembers her from before she was White Canary. But there's still Theo Queen. Somehow I guess she forgot she was still there. Uh, there's still people that exist from our life that still remembers her. Our mother. Our mother is still alive. So there's still people who could remember her, but somehow they forgot that. I guess they wanted to have this deep emotional scene where Sarah thinks that no one remembers her from before she was the White Canary. But it within the context of the stories, within the context of what we know, no, there's still characters around that remembers her from before, but somehow either the writers forgot about that, either they didn't know about that, which wouldn't surprise me very often. You'd be surprised how many times the writers either don't watch their own shows or don't watch other shows that are linked with their own show. Sadly, there's something called doing research that a lot of people don't seem to want to do these days. But of course, after that touching scene, they get attacked by an evil shadow demon, and then they come to realize that, oopsie, maybe the Anti-Monitor is not so dead after all. And we got a pretty epic superhero fight towards the end versus the Anti-Monitor. And we have also a side story at Star Labs where we have Black Lightning, Heatwave, and Killer Frost fighting some evil shadow demons. One of the cringe moments, I guess, in this episode would be Superman gets captured and Supergirl goes to try and save him. Although I'm a bit surprised they had Ray Palmer actually save Superman as opposed to Supergirl. They sadly often try to use Superman to show that Supergirl is stronger than him or more powerful than him or better than him. It's a bit sad, but I've mentioned that I think in my last video how Superman is sadly used often as what's known as a jobber in wrestling, basically a lesser wrestler that's used to make the superstar wrestler look good. So the superstar wrestler beats up the lesser wrestler and looks uber powerful. And sadly, that's how they use Superman and in those TV shows. Sadly, they use him to make Supergirl look more powerful. It's a bit sad, but that seems to be. That seems to be what they want to do. And they never miss an occasion to show that Supergirl is better than Superman. Although in this case, they did throw us a twist. It is actually the Atom who saves Superman as opposed to Supergirl. So I guess we'll be thankful for that. And then once the evil Anti-Monitor is defeated, and then we got quite a few nice scenes where they show the new status quo. So we see Diggles with his family, we see Supergirls with her family and friends, and well, our friend Batwoman, and then we see Superman flying in the air. Apparently, he has sons now. I thought he could have sworn he had only one son before that, but now he seems to have more than one son somehow. I guess it's going to be a storyline they'll develop more in Supergirl in the next few episodes. And of course, we end with a narration with Oliver Queen, the new Spectre, where he talks about the rebirth of the universe and the new multiverse, I guess. And then we see the various different Earths. They start by showing us the Earth 2, which I guess would be the place to start, where we see the Justice Society of America. And also we see Stargirl is part of that group, but they have a Stargirl TV show coming up. I have to wonder, will it be set on Earth 2? Will it be a completely different series? Will be completely disconnected from the Arrowverse? I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. Are they going to make the same mistake they made with Black Lightning or Supergirl to begin with, or are they going to start that show on Earth 2? I guess we'll have to wait and see for that. And we also have Earth 12, which seems to be the Earth of the Green Lantern movie, which I'm a bit surprised they're even referencing, because Warner have been very embarrassed by that movie. So, but personally, I'm probably one of the 3 guys alive who actually enjoyed that movie. Yes, that movie was had a lot of flaws and was horrible in a few places, but I thought that Ryan Reynolds did a good job portraying Hal Jordan. Yeah, he was more comedic. Hal should probably have been a bit more serious, but that was to be expected. But I really enjoyed the way he seemed to like having his powers sometimes, especially when he quote unquote learns to fly. The joy, the excitement that he has when he does fly, the first time he does fly on his own with the ring, that was a fun bit. So I was able to get quite a few fun bits from that movie, but sadly the villain being a cloud, basically they repeated the same mistake as the Fantastic Four. When Fantastic Four decided to have Galactus being a giant cloud, you would have thought they would have learned not to do that, but no, they had to repeat that mistake and turn Parallax into a giant cloud. It's crazy, but sadly it happens all the time. You'll see the same mistake being repeated over and over, sometimes by the same people, sometimes by different people. One such mistake we saw not too long ago was with the Dark Phoenix movie. They had basically the same team who made X-Men 3: The Last Stand. They had them pretty much repeat a whole bunch of stuff they already had made in the last stand. It's crazy, but they still repeated a lot of the same mistakes somehow. Sadly, sometimes people don't learn or studios don't learn. It's hard to explain, but it happens. There was also a bit where they showed the Earth Swamp Thing. I would have thought that Swamp Thing, again, and Doom Patrol and Teen Titans would all be on the same Earth. Apparently not. Swamp Thing has his Earth. The Teen Titans have their Earth. The Doom Patrol seems to have their Earth. Again, I'm not sure why they gave a different Earths to all those shows. Maybe they have plans in the future to have a different version of the Teen Titans in the Arrowverse. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see for that. Or maybe they'll have a new crisis in like a few years called the Infinite Crisis, and then they'll merge the Titans Earth with the new Earth. I guess we'll have to wait and see for that. And there was a nice bit where they had Brandon Routh don the Superman costume one last time to show, I think it was on Earth 96, and we saw the Kingdom Come Superman, but they've replaced the black in the emblem with yellow, which kind of implies that I guess the Joker never killed everyone at the Daily Planet. He didn't kill Lois, so Superman never had to go dark, if it makes sense. So he was able to keep the yellow in his emblem. But it was a fun bit to see Brandon Routh as Superman again, flying above the Earth one last time. And then we got a really awesome scene when they introduced Earth Prime. Obviously, a few of them will say their farewell to Oliver Queen. I thought the armory that they've used for Oliver Queen looked a bit cheap, but again, I'm pretty sure they didn't have that much money to be able to do something better. But then they show us the best reveal of the whole series, I think. And then they do reveal to us a table that looks like a Justice League table. Although, in retrospect, it could be a Super Friends table because they are in the Super Friends headquarters, and we even see Gleek, the monkey sidekick of the Wonder Twins, or the monkey pet of the Wonder Twins. So that's one of the things I guess I didn't like so much. They end up on this big, I guess, epic moment where they reveal the Justice League table. They reveal all the chairs with the emblem of the characters on those chairs. Each sits on their chairs, and so we end up on this pretty cool epic moment. And then they had to cut in a jokey joke. Sadly, that seems to be on par these days. That's one of the reasons why I couldn't enjoy Thor Ragnarok. Whenever there's a big dramatic moment, then they disarm that moment with a comedy bit. And that's pretty much what they did. They had this pretty cool epic moment where they reveal the table, they reveal the chairs, the whole team settles on each chairs, and then they cut to a joke where we see that the Gleek, the monkey, escaped his cage somehow, and then they reveal that they are inside the headquarters of the Super Friends. So overall, it was a fun crossover. It was, I guess, a nice farewell to our friend Oliver Queen, although there are still 2 episodes of Arrow. From what I understand from some of the previews I saw, basically what's going to happen is that his daughter will actually become the new Green Arrow. So overall, it was a fun crossover. There was a lot of drama, obviously. These shows are made pretty much around the drama. But the fact that they had all those characters together, and there was quite a nice few epic superhero fights. There was some not so epic, but overall, obviously we have to remember that those TV shows have a TV show budget. They don't have the budget that even other shows have. Like they don't have a budget like the Mandalorian. So we understand that the various Arrowverse TV shows have a pretty small budget, but they're usually doing pretty good with their small budget. And also understanding that they don't have that much money, we can forgive them when the visual effects are not that great. But overall, for a TV show, they're doing a fairly good job with their visual effects most of the time. And the few times where it's not so great, we can forgive them knowing that it is a TV show. Although this event was a fun bit, I guess it would be a fitting conclusion to the whole Arrowverse saga. If sadly for the past few seasons I had to struggle to watch at least a few of those shows, and I was a big fan of those TV shows. I was a big fan of Arrow when it first started. I was a big fan of the Flash for at least the first two seasons, some change. But sadly, at some point, something happened that made those shows not as good or not very good. In some cases, they were working very hard to replace the lead character. Like at some point, the Flash pretty much became a supporting character in his own TV show. So you could tell that they were working very hard to not feature the Flash anymore. Last year, the Flash was a side character, and his daughter, she was the pretty much the lead of the show last year. It's not an issue in itself, but sadly, it's become systematic at this point. They're trying to do that with pretty much any white male character, so it's getting a bit annoying after a while. And sometimes they'll come with really lame reasons to sideline the main character. Like, forget if it's this season or last season, the Flash went on vacation, so they got rid of the Flash and they focused. I think they focused on Cisco in that episode. So sadly, they've been trying really hard to focus on any other characters than the lead character, and it's getting to be a bit annoying. I really enjoy the character of Cisco, but I watch the Flash TV. When I watch the Flash TV show, I kind of expect to see the Flash. Call me crazy that way, but when I watch the Flash TV show, I kind of expect to see the Flash. And once in a while, I guess having an episode that focuses on another character would not be a bad thing. But last year, or even the past 2 years on the Flash, it's become pretty much systematic. They would find stupid reasons to sideline the Flash so that they could focus on any other character but the Flash. And also, I got really tired of the whole drama. When Arrow started, they had a pretty good balance between drama and action. You could tell that they didn't have that much money, but still they managed to make some fun action sequences that were pretty inventive and pretty fun to watch. So when Arrow started, we had a bit of a balance between action and drama, but then at some point the drama went into hyperdrive, and the action was a bit sidelined. So the first few seasons, it was easier to ignore a lot of the drama, and it's not just drama; it's teen drama. It's like it's always a bit weird to see people who are 25, 30 years old act as if they were 12 years old, and a lot of the drama is something you would expect from 12 years old, even though the actors obviously are not 12 years old. So sadly, that imbalance with the drama and the action started making those shows pretty much unwatchable as time went by. So overall, it was a fun crossover. It had a lot of Easter eggs, and I'm surprised that they were able to include the Batman without including the Batman, but somehow they managed to do it. Sadly, somehow Warner do not want to use Batman in a TV show. It's sad, but they seem dead set to only use Batman in movies. So that's why we didn't get Batman in Gotham. We got Batman at the very last episode of Gotham, and even then we barely see him. They did kind of like what they did with Smallville and Superman. And in this case, for Crisis on Infinite Earths, they managed to include Batman somehow, without having him being Batman, if it makes sense. So at this point, I'm a bit tired of all the teen drama we have on those TV shows. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep on watching. As far as I'm concerned, this might be the finale for me for the Arrowverse. It was a fun way to end watching those TV shows. I might watch the last 2 episodes of Arrow just to see how it ends. I might watch the future crossovers, although after Crisis on Infinite Earths, you have to wonder what can they do next year as a crossover. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see for that one. So if you're a bit like me and you're a bit tired of old teen drama and those TV shows, Crisis on Infinite Earth is a pretty good jumping off point for you. It's a nice finale, even though technically it will continue with Legends of Tomorrow, with Batwoman, with The Flash, and Black Lightning, and Supergirl. So there's still going to be an Arrowverse moving forward, and odds are they're going to replace Oliver Queen with his daughter. So maybe she'll be part of the Legends of Tomorrow crew. Seeing how they're canceling the Arrow TV show, are they going to release a spin-off with the new Green Arrow, which will be his daughter? Is she going to become part of the Legend of Tomorrow the same way they did with Kid Flash a few seasons ago, or even Constantine? Constantine was added to Legends of Tomorrow in order to be able to continue the character, even though he didn't have his own series anymore. So are they going to do that with the new Green Arrow? I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. If you have any questions, feel free to ask so in the comment section down below, and I'll see what I can do about answering your questions. So as always, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.